Hey, what's up again? I'm back, and I wanted to show you guys a tutorial on how to reinstall the wheels after they've been removed. My last tutorial, I basically took the wheels off, and like I said, they were perfectly fine. I had recorded it previously on some bad tires or some worn out tires, but then I lost the video, so I re-recorded it with the tires I have on now, and so I just took them off, and then I'm basically going to put them right back on. And I did that just so I can get a tutorial out. So here's the bike. It's got no wheels on it, and let's go ahead. Let's start with the. Should we do the hard one first or the easy one first? Hard. Always do the hard one first, because it'll be more rewarding after you're done. You've only got the easy one left. So let's get started with that. So the first thing you do, let me get in close here, is install the Sprocket assembly back on. So the first thing you want to do is make sure all these dampers are screwed all the way back so that the assembly will fit in nicely. So get this guy. This is going to be kind of hard to do with one hand, but I'll give it a try. Alright, so we're going to try to, you can see the pattern here, right? Basically that fits in right there. So it doesn't really matter where you put it, as long as it just slips in. Okay, got one side in. Let's see. Oh. I think I got it. Let's see, did I get it? Yep, I think I got it. All right, cool. So step one done. Okay, let's set up for the next step, which is basically, oh, no, first, there are some spacers over here. These guys right here. These go on at the ends of the tire, or the wheel rather. And it's a good idea to wear gloves for this because all this stuff is usually pretty greasy and pretty gross, so keep your hands clean, wear some gloves. Okay, so we're just gonna put that in there. Oh, this is hard to do with one hand. I don't want to get the camera gross. I'm just gonna turn it off and put them on, and then I'll come back. Okay, now that I got the spacers back on, let's zoom in here. Let's see. So we're going to try to slip the tire in, the wheel in. The thing that's tricky is that you have to get this brake caliper on just right as well. So you'll see here, it has a little, this caliper mounting kind of bar has a little groove here. And if you see real closely, there's this rail right here. So basically this guy is supposed to fit, I think, right into there, like so, right? And then basically the axle is going to go through the wheel and this hole right here. So doing all that together can be kind of a challenge. So let's give it a go. I'm going to set the camera down. Maybe, hopefully I have a good view. Let me try to reset this up. Okay, I'm going to try this view here. Hopefully this will give you guys a good view of it. It's kind of hard to really focus in on this because I'll have to be standing in the way. So, let's see. Okay, so I'm going to grab your axle here. So you grab your axle, and then bring your wheel over. Put the axle down. Okay, bring your wheel over here. First thing you want to do is slip the chain back on. So it's pretty much the same way we took it off. Bring the wheel all the way to the right, scoot it up as far as you can, and then bring that chain. Bring the chain around and slip that guy Okay, I see. So you have to tension the top all the way to bring the chain around. So basically grab up here, pull it back, and then bring it back into the teeth of the sprocket. There we go. That should slip right in. And then might pull your sprocket out a little bit, so make sure that's in tight. Okay, so the big thing that's annoying is the spacers on the sides fit in pretty snug. So if you don't, the trick is to do it nice and slow and take your time. The first time I did this, I tried to get it on as quick as possible and I kept knocking the spacer out. So try to do it. Try to take your time when you do it. Okay, and then, so I got that positioned here. All right, so I'm gonna bring this caliper on over. And the first time I did this, it was really annoying because I basically had to keep trying over and over, and I couldn't get everything lined up perfectly. So hopefully this time it'll be a little easier and I won't look like such a noob. Okay, so again, use your foot. You know what? The camera tripod is actually in the way, so I'm gonna back that up. Okay. So we're gonna lift her up. Oh man. Okay, so we lift it up. Oh, see, one spacer already fell out. Make sure that your calipers are nice and spread apart. Okay, that brought that right piston down. So now, see, we got a lot more space here that we can work with. So now, this should go in a little easier. I guess it's in the rail. And let's see if we can do it this time. Let's put the spacer back on. Okay, spacer is in all the way. Right spacer's in all the way. Caliper is set on the rail. Now we lift it up ever so slightly. So far something on the left. Yes, I got it. Let's hold it. Now I gotta get the axle through. So hard. There you go. I think it wants to come out the other side. Yes. Yes. Ah, I did it. Oh, it didn't. Okay. Okay, so axle kind of went in partially. The reason is you got to make sure this. So right now the tensioning bolt is blocking it, so I need to bring that in more. Okay, so now I can bring the block in like that. See, now the block is in. And now this axle has, the end of this has two flat ends that just needs to slide right in so that it lines up with this block here. So I'm going to push that in. If you lift the wheel up a little bit, get some tension off of that, and there you go. Woo! Did it. We did it. All right, so that's done with that. So if you look closely here, that axle is now sticking out. All right. So we got this. We got our nut here and our washer. So we're gonna put this guy, I don't think it matters which side, but go in here. One thing I did forget to mention is you want to put a little lithium grease on the axle before you put it back in. I did that already off camera. Just a little bit, because if you put a lot, it's just going to end up coming out on both sides when you slip it in. And That's what she said. And then you'll just have a bunch of of axle grease just coming out of the sides, so it's really messy, and So here's that. Tighten that by hand. No need to tighten all the way yet, because you still need to adjust the chain tension. So let's do that next. Okay, so the next thing we gotta do is get the chain tensioned correctly. So first thing we want to do is get a baseline, and to do that we basically need to match the hash mark. Oh man, can't see this, can you guys? Give me a flashlight. Okay, go. So that's like too bright now. So there is your hash marks, right? And you see at the bottom there's a little pointy thing at the bottom of this block. You can kind of see it right here. And you use that to point at the hash mark, right? I can't really tell from here. There it is. Yeah, now you can see it. A little point thing. So since when I removed the wheel, I didn't change the tension here, right? I didn't change there's the same hash marks on this side, and I didn't change this adjustment bolt. So if we just match the left with the right, we should be back pretty much to where we were. So that would give us a good baseline, and from there we can basically check the tension on the chain to make sure it has the right amount of play, and then we'll do the alignment. So I think that's an R6 I just passed by in my neighborhood. There's a lot of motorcycle riders in this neighborhood that I live in. I've seen a CBR, an R6, and the guy next door to me had a Gixxer. The guy next door to him had another Gixxer. So lots of bikes. Okay, so right now this thing is way off. It needs to be at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hash marks over, and right now it's at 8. So we're gonna go ahead and bring this guy over by, what you're doing is you're basically just screwing this adjustment bolt out. You can see the chain. Can you see the chain? Yeah, you can see the chain, even in the video, get a little tighter and a little tighter as I bring this out more and more. Let's see where we're at now. This back. Bring this back here. A couple more turns. We should be, there we go. Okay. So that's a good starting point. Now, what we want to do is check the play on it. And the play basically means when you press up between the axle and the front sprocket, about right here, it should go about 1.5 or 1 inch to 1.5 inches, depending on your bike. Each bike might have a different specification. Mine specifically, the CBR 2008 CBR600RR has a specification about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Right now, I think it's a little loose. That's what it looks like, because it goes up and hits the swing arm easily. So what you do is you take a tape measure, bring it up here. Okay. Right now, let's see if we can zoom in here. Right, it's about 2 inches. It's at 2 inches. It's at the 2 inch mark right now. So when it goes up, I want it to go to about the 1.25 inch maybe, which it actually does. That's it right there. That is perfect. Yep, that's perfect. About 1.4 maybe. No, that's all right. All right, so we've adjusted our chain. So now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're right below 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, right at 7, which is where we are on the other side. So basically, I brought it back to the way it was before I took the wheel off. So now what we want to do is make sure that alignment is perfect. And to do that, I have a tool here. This tool right here. This is a Motion Pro chain aligner. There's like a million different ways to align your wheel, and I've researched a ton to figure out what the best way is. And when I talked to some mechanics, they basically told me, like, some people just overthink it, you know, like some mechanics actually all they do is just match the hash marks. And when I read on forums, people are like, oh no, the hash marks are super inaccurate. So I don't know. This was a cheap $10 tool I bought on Amazon, and I'll show you how it works. So basically, I'll put it on too early. I didn't even show you how to put it on. So basically, I can't get it off. Come on. Yeah, there you go. So basically, it's really simple. It's just like this little rail thing, and it's got this tightening screw on it, and basically it just sits right on your sprocket, like so. You install it just like that. You slip it on like that. So now it's just sitting on your sprocket. You put that part where there's no bolt, obviously, so you can screw this in all the way. Okay, so once you screw it in all the way, so it's a precision instrument, so it's flat on both sides. So if you screw it all the way, it should be completely flush against your sprocket. So this bar is also precise and should be straight. Basically what you're trying to do, you probably get the idea by now, is make sure that this bar is aligned with, is basically aligned from the front to back. So if you notice that the bar is like, if you notice the bar is like pointing this way, then you need to bring, let's see, so if it's pointing this way, that means this left side is farther back than the right side. So you gotta bring the right side back, and vice versa for the other way. So right now, mine actually looks dead on. Yep, mine actually looks pretty dead on, which makes sense. I mean, I put it right back to where it was. So, well, I found out that some mechanics, they just match the hash marks, and they say, you know what, that's good enough. You're overthinking it, and it's probably true. I've seen a lot of guys use some sort of laser type of equipment and stuff, and say that, oh my God, you have to get it just right and perfect, or else it's going to drive all weird. I did this for my last track day. I used just this simple Motion Pro tool. I used that to align. I got it lined up, and it worked perfectly. The first time I did it, I didn't do it correctly. And I think one way you can easily tell is if you look at your tire after you rode it, you see this center line, the center like white part. That's where it's going to get ridden when you're riding straight up. I noticed that it was a lot more on the left than it was on the right, and I was just riding on the street just to work. So it should have been just about even, but there's a lot more to the left. So I checked it, and now it's just with using the hash marks. So then I bought this Motion Pro tool, and I used it to do the alignment. And after I did it, I took it out again. I rode it for a day or so to see if the center line would come back to the center, and sure enough, it did. So the tool did a pretty good job. Okay, so yeah, so then after you do that, we're going to tighten this nut. Okay, so before we tighten the nut, one trick is, the thing is when you tighten the nut, if you don't put a lot of tension on this, on the chain, and I mean against so the wheel has a lot of tension against the axle. Basically, if you try to tighten the nut, it'll move around, and then when you finish tightening, it might not be butt up against this adjustment bolt. So what you need to do is you need to put tension on the chain so it pulls the wheel that way, and keeps it butt up against these adjustment bolts. An easy way to do that is to take a cheapo screwdriver, stick it in here, and then just, you know, bring it forward. Oh, let's take our tool off first. Put that away. Okay, so now we can put tension along our sprocket. So just like that. So when you turn the wheel, it's going to tension that chain. And when you do that, you go back on the other side and you tighten the nut. So let's do that. Okay, put that in. I'm gonna bring it forward. Okay. Keeping some tension, keeping a little pressure. Hand tighten, okay? Okay, so after you've hand tightened it, you gotta take your torque wrench, and it's very important that you torque these correctly to the spec. So my manual says that the torque spec for this rear axle nut is 113 Newton meters, which is roughly 83 foot-pounds. So to adjust it, you basically, I don't know if you can see this, but along here, there is a numbering system. I'm gonna bring it to 75, right, on 0, and then I'm gonna bring it over 5 ticks, and you're now at 80, so you bring in 3 or more ticks, and you are at 83 exact, okay? So we'll tighten that there. Now, go in here, oops, put it tight, of course. Actually had a lot of room to work with. There's that click. So when it clicks, you're done. You're at the right torque. So that's it for the rear, I believe, right? Yeah, that's it for the rear. So let's give the rear brake a couple presses to bring that pistons back down. Since I expand the brake pads, and that should be it. Okay. Now, let's move to the front. Front wheel is much easier. Much easier. Okay, so for the front wheel, basically, you do the same thing we did to take it off. So the first thing you need to make a note of is which direction you're supposed to be putting this guy on. So the easiest way to do that is if you look way down here. I do not know if you can see it or not. Oh, let's get the flashlight back, yeah? So if you look way down here, I'm pointing to an arrow. You see that arrow? That's basically the direction your tire turns when it's moving forward. So you want to orient your tire based on that. The rear, it's easy because, you know, the sprocket's only on one side, so there's really only one way you can do it. So here, since the arrow is pointing this way, I need to turn my wheel this way. So you just slip that guy, roll it in there. Like that. Real easy. Okay? And after you do that, you want to get your axle. So put your axle here, and you want to put the spacers. So you want to put these guys, these little rings, these little spacers, into the sides. They should just slip right in the sides, like so. It'll have a good bit of grease on it. Okay. Wipe some of that grease off on your axle. Make sure your axle's all good and greasy. Okay, so the axle goes in like this. There's a little fatter end on this side. That's going to be on the right side if you're looking at the bike. So we're going to put that in here like so. Just let it sit in there. And we're going to do the same thing where we lift the wheel up. This is a little easier, the spacers don't get knocked out. And just stick it in. Make sure it's lined up. I'm gonna try to get my foot under there. Use some of that. Oh, there we go. All right. There we go. Yes. Okay, it's not all the way in yet. There we go. Now it's all in. Okay. Cool. So the next step is to take your axle bolt. Okay, so now we got to put our axle bolt in. People often say, which one goes in first? Do you put the axle bolt in and tighten it, or do you tighten these clamp bolts yet first? I think you tighten the axle bolt first, because that sets the axle in place, and then you continue to tighten those. So the axle bolt uses a 22 millimeter ratchet socket, like so. Here, hand tighten, like that. And then get your torque wrench again. So the front axle bolt is supposed to be, is spec'd to be torqued at, let's see, it converts to 43 foot-pounds. So I'm going to set my torque wrench to be 43. Okay. The same thing as before. You just do this to your click, and you're done. So, next step is to tighten and torque the clamp bolts. Okay, so I've got my 12 millimeter socket with my 3/8 inch smaller torque wrench. And I've got it set, the spec for this is 22 Newton meters, which roughly converts to 16 foot-pounds. So we're going to go ahead and tighten that. Get in there. Okay. I also put some Loctite in here earlier, so it's a little tighter, holds a little tighter. So it's going to click. Good with that one. Do the same thing here. There's a click. Okay, one thing I do want to stress, and I cannot stress this enough, is to not just tighten one and then the other and then call it a day. You need to go back and tighten the other one again and then go back and forward, because this is a clamp. So basically when you tighten one side, it loosens the other. So we tighten this one first, and we tighten this one next. Now this one's actually going to be looser. So let's see. Yep, so there's a little more torque. So there's a little more torque room there. It didn't click right away. Let me do that again here. This one clicked right away. So we're good on both. I learned this the hard way because I did just that, where I tightened one, tightened the other, and then finished it and went riding, and basically I came back and I was lucky that I just wanted to check it and see, you know, how everything was. And this bolt was so loose, I could basically it was so loose that I could just jiggle it and I could take it out with my hand. Very scary if that had happened. If something had come out while I was riding, especially if you're on a track or something, you're pushing your bike really hard. There's a lot of vibrations. Then that would be a bad day. So we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. And I'll fast forward through this because it's pretty much a repeat of the other side. Okay, so with that done, let's go ahead and check the torque one more time on the axle bolt. Yep, that's still good. Okay, so the next step is to reinstall your brake calipers. This is really easy because all we gotta do is just slip the caliper back on and tighten the caliper bolts. So here's my brake calipers. I'm going to go ahead and install it just to show you, and then off camera I'm just going to replace these brake pads back with my OEM brake pads. For street riding, these are Vistra RJL racing high performance brake